Hello and welcome to the Friday Show with CJ Werleman, presented by Inside Arabia. I'm your host, CJ Werleman. Our coverage this Friday examines the continued suffering of Yazidi genocide survivors in the northern Iraqi town of Sinjar. We then look at how political populism has undermined Tunisia's fledgling democracy, and we finish with Algeria, where human rights abuses have soared under its new leader. Now let's get started. We begin with Alexandre Bajek's article on new fears and insecurity experienced by Iraq's Yazidi minority in Sinjar, where the Iraqi military launched a new offensive early this month to clear the area of Sinjar Resistant Units Forces, which is a local militia tied to the separatist Kurdistan Workers' Party, otherwise known as PKK. You will remember the mountainous town of Sinjar fell to the terror group in ISIS in 2014, which carried out what the United Nations called a genocide against the ethnic minority, in killing more than 5,000 Yazidis and raping and kidnapping many more. The following year, ISIS was driven out of Sinjar by the PKK-affiliated separatist group, which has remained in control of the town ever since, much to the disconcertion of the Iraqi central government. Its recent and ongoing military offensive against the local militia group has not only displaced 10,000 Yazidis, but also reopened old traumas by reminding them of their darkest days, when ISIS carried out its genocidal campaign of killings, abductions, rape, and enslavement. For these reasons and more, Bajek calls on the international community to push the respective warring parties out of Sinjar, and then work towards a long-term resolution that ends Yazidi suffering. We shift now to Karim Zakour's analysis on the considerable authoritarian backsliding that has taken place in Tunisia under the rule of President Kais Saied, who gained power on the back of his landslide victory in the presidential elections of 2019. In weaponizing his own brand of populism, Saied has sacked his prime minister, dissolved the parliament, and is working on amending or scrapping the constitution altogether, and in doing so taking Tunisia back to the days it was ruled by the authoritarian and repressive dictator Ben Ali, who was forced from office during the Arab Spring protests of 2011. But unlike his populist contemporaries elsewhere, including former US President Donald Trump and current Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the demonization of religious or racial minorities is not at the center of Saied's effort to dismantle Tunisia's democratic institutions. Instead, Saied's populist shtick is constructed on conjuring fears of meddling Islamic extremist groups and old tropes that suggest Tunisians are not ready for democracy. Weaving these two narratives together, Saied is exploiting the fragility of Tunisia's democratic experiment. These are concerning times for pro-democracy citizens of the North African country. We come now to Youssef El-Kadi's commentary on the unfolding human rights apocalypse taking place in Algeria under new President Abdelmajid Tebboune, who was elected in 2019 with a mandate to oversee the country's democratic transition. But his crackdown on dissenting voices, particularly those linked to the Hirak, a mass protest movement demanding drastic political change, has exposed Tebboune as a political fraud. In protest both at home and abroad, Hirak activists have called for an end of military rule and establishment of a civil state, describing Tebboune as illegitimate and fake and installed by the military. They say his government's claims of reforms are mere smoke and mirrors because the military continues to rule the country with an iron fist. According to Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, human rights abuses in Algeria have burgeoned under the state's systematic and recurrent violations of the people's freedom of expression and movement. These repressive measures have included unlawful disappearances, pre-trial detention, prosecutions of Hirak and Kibali activists on trumped-up charges of terrorism, and arbitrary travel bans. When Inside Arabia contacted Algerian writer, journalist, and human rights activist Anur Malik to get his perspective on the travel ban imposed upon Algerian dual citizen nationals who live outside the country, he said, "These bans come within the framework of the war declared by the Algerian regime on anyone who has a different opinion. Clearly, this is a dangerous time in the North African country's shaky transition towards democracy." You can find all three of these articles and more on InsideArabia.com. That's my time for today. This has been the Friday Show with CJ Werleman. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week, same day and same channel.